I've wrapped painter's tape on all the edges, and the reason for that is I'm going to start gluing strips on here in just a minute. This has been all the prep work that goes into building a canoe, and I estimate that I've put in 8 hours to get the forms ready, 10 hours to rip and machine the strips, and 7 hours to get the strong back built and everything attached. So far I've got about 25 hours into just prep work to get everything ready. So I'm going to get started with the first strip. Probably turn that off because I'll be spending a great deal of time getting this ready with some cussing and swearing. But we'll be back to actually attach the first strip. So I think that's it. I think that's I think I'm really close to where I need to be. I guess I should add that the way these canoes in the books that I'm using are built is the strips are actually stapled to the forms. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have all those holes showing in the side of the canoe. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do this without any mechanical fasteners. It's all just clamps and pressure. And I'm hoping that this works, but I'm not sure. In a lot of canoe building, they actually make a stem and a stern, but this canoe is not made that way. It's just made where the strips come together and you glue them together, and then after you fiberglass this and you flip it over, there's a process where you fill in behind to give it more strength and rigidity. But this particular canoe, and forgive the pronunciation, I think it's called a wabnaki or wabnaki. It's not designed that way. And while we're on it, let me just tell you, I'm not telling you how to build a canoe. I'm just showing you how I'm building a canoe. I'm taking a lot of information in from a lot of different sources and kind of putting my own spin on it. And because it is a DIY project, there's a lot of little things to overcome, which is what makes woodworking so much fun. Overcoming the little things as you go along, the unexpected. So I'm going to go ahead and put the first strip, or I should say second strip, on this side on. And what did I do? There we go. Just a little dab of glue will go a long way, trying to prevent excessive squeeze out while still having enough glue to hold the pieces in place. But where it counts. Today's July 15th, and making progress on the canoe. I've had a couple of issues here and there, but for the most part it's coming along. The one thing that I'm still worried about is here coming up to the stem. There's a lot of twisting right in here. Back here it lays fine. But then as I come up, you can actually see, like right in here, how it twists from going in this direction to going vertically. And there's a lot of pressure in here. And it just is getting worse with each strip that I put on. Now I'm hoping that everything will work out. But you can see, like right here, this clamp, I've pretty much gotten to the end of these clamps. These have helped provide a force down, obviously, but it also helps to keep the twist in that I need. And I'm not going to be able to use these much anymore. And that's kind of the thing. Each strip that I add, there's a different means of clamping. This side has been going really well, with a minor exception of right in here. I had a strip that did not, for whatever reason, it didn't sit right on top of the strip below it, and it protruded a great deal. Now, I sanded a little bit yesterday because I was so worried about it. I wanted to make sure that I could sand those imperfections out. It was really bad in here. So bad that on the inside, I actually have put an additional strip because there was so much overhang. I believed that when I sanded fair, I would sand right through that board. So I put another strip on the inside, and I'll have to sand that as well. The same thing happened over here on this side. I had to put a strip in there. That one turned out a little bit better and will be easier to sand fair on the inside. But it's coming along nicely. This side, I think, looks really good. But if you come over to the other side, I'm a little concerned again, because you see these gaps. It's just not laying as nicely. And as I come over the top, it's I don't know, it just lays differently. I don't know what I'm doing different on this side than I am on the other side. It's been such a problem that I've had to put the occasional nail in here and down here just to hold it so that it can wrap around the forms. But this is where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and add a strip today. And that's the other thing, is as I got up to about this level, I could do 3 strips at a time, but now I can only do 1 because I need the clamps on there to let the glue dry. If I take the clamps off, the whole thing just springs off because of all of the tension. So now that I've turned the corner, as it were, and I'm starting to parallel the forms along the top, the glue surface is now perpendicular to the forms. Let me put this here so you can see. I'm using a syringe, and it works really well. There is a downside, and the downside is that this is hard to keep clean. And I may have been better off just getting disposable syringe, but this is what I have, so this is what I'll use. The nice thing is I have a nice controlled application of glue. Let me turn this around so you can, instead of me blocking, you can actually see what I'm doing as I drip glue all along the surface. It's a nice smooth application. I can control it pretty well. It goes pretty well for the most part, but then every once in a while things get all crooked on me, and I'm not exactly sure why that happens. Again, a lot of this is a learning experience as I go along. I'm figuring things out as I go. I know that this looks like it's going relatively easy, but I have had problems, and more problems than I care to admit to. But you just keep working it, and when you make a mistake, you go back and you try to train the strips to go where you want. And as I've shown you before, I have some large gaps that I'm going to have to fill with a filler that I'll make out of sawdust and either epoxy resin or wood glue. I really haven't decided which. The epoxy resin I find is a little bit harder to sand than a filler made out of wood glue. And sawdust, I'm making it out of epoxy resin and sawdust. You can see how this is laying relatively flat, but now I come down here and the board's flat, but I need to twist it into place. And that's a lot of pressure, a lot of tension on the board. Now these thin strips make it easier, obviously, but it creates problems further back. Like in this area, this is where the gaps are opening up. I get this set, and then I twist this board into place, and suddenly that tension goes all the way back, and it wants to roll this in this direction, and it separates and creates a gap. And it's a constant battle. So now let's take a look. You can see I'm going to put another piece of tape in here to get that little gap closed. And the twist is mostly down here, but it actually works its way all the way back up into this area. So while I have this set, as I work parallel to the ground, this is more vertical to the ground. And when I put this twist in, it flexes all the way back up into this area. And I just go back and forth as I work it. Every time I run into a problem, I worry about how I'm going to fix it. In this case, I was worried about these gaps between the planks. Among other things, I was worried about structure. As I go around the corner and I twist these and these gaps open up, I have less of a glue surface to hold the strips together, and it's weaker. So I thought about, how to fill those gaps while at the same time making it stronger. And of course, epoxy resin is the way to go. So I've filled the gaps with epoxy resin. Now, I'm into August now, and I have 60 planks on the boat. Over here, where it's darker, I've started to use some wood filler, a little bit of epoxy resin and sawdust from sanding the Canoe to fill in. Worked, but there's an awful lot of epoxy left on the boat that I have to sand off or plane off. And I'm using a planer right now to try to lower some of the high spots. Like you can see right in here how dark it is in here. So this is obviously higher than this, and I'll plane that down a little bit and then go over it with a sander. But it's coming along. Let me show you a little bit of what I'm doing. Hopefully that stays put. And this is just the first step in fairing the hull. There's a lot more to go, and I'll be sanding here shortly with 80 grit and then 120 grit. It's August 16th, and the boat is coming along nicely. I turned the corner, so to speak. The stem and the stern are now covered, and I'm working on the bottom of the boat, which is obviously now the top of the boat. Most people at this point, they work to the center on one side, like from here to the center, and then they'll cut a straight line down and then work from the other side to that straight line. And the author of the boat book that I'm using, and give me just a minute. The book that I'm using is by Gilpatrick, and he actually does something a little different. And since it's his plan, his boat, I'm going to follow along. What he does is he just overlaps as you go along, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just weaving, if you will, and I'll weave it all the way down as we go. When I'm fitting the strip, I put it in and I mark the strip and the hull where I want to clamp, so that it's easier for me to find it. So right there, I've lined that up, and I can put my clamp on, and that'll hold it while I get this done. And it's a nice tight fit. The further I go, the less room I have for clamps. And that's it. Now I'll go ahead and lay this strip in, but in order to do that, I'll have to move this. And this is pretty easy to do. I'll see if I can show you how I do it. So I check it. It lies right in the corner. And then I come over here and I mark where this board comes out, and I just connect the lines. Let the saw do the work. Test the fit. And if you notice, there's a little gap there.
So what I'll do is take my planer and shave it a little bit so that it fits tighter. That's better. That's more what I'm looking for. So again, you can see that there's a cove in here. I'm going to knock that down so that when I do the next side, it has a flat surface. Only have to go a few inches. So I fit that in there. If I really screw this up, I can just use it on the next cut for the next plank. So let me show you. So it's just a little long, as you can see. So what I'll do now is I'll take my plane, and that'll help me clean this cut up a little bit. Clean that cut up. And since it's a little long, what I can do is bend it in like that, and up too far. There we go. It bends in nice. So nice and tight. And now this is ready for glue up. This has been a learn as you go endeavor. Back, two weeks ago or so, when I was trying to put glue in the cove, I would stand up and reach over and put the glue on. And then one day, I happened to turn around to put glue on, and I realized, oh my gosh, I can just reach across and put the glue on. And I laughed at myself for about 5 minutes because of all the extra work I was putting myself through to do what should have been a very simple job. But it's August 19th, rapidly coming up on the whiskey plank. I may get it in today, I may get it in tomorrow. It's going, this part is going better than I thought it would. Really pleased with how it's working out. Still not sure how I'm gonna do the clamping once I get a little bit closer, but I'll figure it out. In the future, when I do this again, and I will do this again, I'm really enjoying this project. I'll try to do something more decorative. I've seen people make compass rose right in the center. I might want to try something like that, and they do really unique striping on the side. But we are rapidly closing on finishing up the planking. I have 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 80 planks on total, 40 per side. To give you an idea of how much wood is needed. The issues that I was worried about really weren't that big of a deal, and I'll probably do a summary on the video when I edit, but it is something that is well within the capability of anyone who does woodworking. The biggest surprises that I had were the twisting of the planks. I wasn't quite expecting that, even though in the book it talks about it. I wasn't quite expecting. You can see here how the planks are twisting, and in some cases I could only do 2 planks a day, one on this side, one on this side, because of the way the twisting was taking place. That each side takes 30 to 40 minutes, so each plank takes 15 to 20 minutes to install, and then you have to let it dry. So today I've done 3 planks on each side for a total of 6, and it's taking me the better part of the day. I started at about 10 o'clock this morning, and it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now. Mowed the lawn in between, but I put a plank on, let the glue set up before I went on and did the next row of planks. And some afternoons I'd come home from work and I could only get 1 plank on and have to let it dry overnight. Well, here we go. August 19th, the whiskey plank. We started planking on July 1st, and it's taken us this long. Took a week's vacation in there as well, but time for the whiskey plank. And Lisa is bringing out the whiskey. It's a major milestone in boat building and is celebrated with whiskey, hence the term whiskey plank.
I don't think it's filming. I don't see anything.
Yeah, it's filming.
Okay.
We're a minute and 40 seconds into it.
Okay.
Fifth minute ago. Here we go. There we go. What's that they say? Ta-da.
Ta-da!
Let's have the whiskey. Little something something.
What with the Wellers? Tell me when.
That's good. Thanks for
Cheers.
letting me do it. Wow. That took a long time.
Let's keep me out of trouble.
All right.
I could get into this.